Zephyr 9 adjusted the breathing apparatus around his neck as the transport shuttle approached the human vessel. The assignment seemed simple enough. Watch the humans, record their behavior, write a report for the Altarian Council about whether these new species could join the galactic community without causing problems. The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Through the viewing port, Zephyr 9 saw his first human in person. The creature stood almost 2 meters tall, with thick muscles under a blue uniform. Its face showed white teeth and what the cultural file said was called a smile. "Welcome aboard the Independence," the human said, as Zephyr 9 stepped through the airlock. "I'm Commander Jake Morrison. We're excited to have you here." Zephyr 9 had studied human language for months, but hearing it spoken was different. The sounds were deeper than most species used. The human's voice carried easily through the ship's corridors, like it was made for calling across great distances. "Thank you, Commander Morrison," Zephyr 9 replied through his translator. "I am Observer Zephyr 9 of the Altarian Confederation. My government is pleased to meet your people." Morrison led him through the ship. The corridors were wider than necessary, with thick walls and heavy doors. Everything looked solid, built to last. Other humans they passed nodded and smiled. One female with short brown hair waved at them. "That's Dr. Lisa Carter, our science officer," Morrison explained. "She's been looking forward to meeting you. She studies alien life forms." They entered a large room with windows showing the stars outside. Several humans sat around a metal table. They all stood when Zephyr 9 entered, which the cultural file said was a sign of respect. "Everyone, this is Observer Zephyr 9, Morrison announced. "He's here to learn about us and help decide if we're ready to join the Galactic Council." A tall male with gray hair stepped forward. "I'm Captain Steve Phillips. This is my ship and these are my crew. We hope you'll feel welcome here." The introductions continued. Engineer Mike Thompson, a large man with oil-stained hands. Navigation Officer Linda Rodriguez, who spoke with a slight accent. Medical Officer Dr. Paul Davis, who looked older than the others but moved with quick energy. Communications Officer Kate Wilson, a young woman with bright eyes who seemed excited about everything. Dr. Carter approached with what looked like a small device. "Would you like to see some images from our home planet, Earth?" Zephyr 9 nodded. The device projected pictures into the air above the table. The first image showed a blue and green world with white clouds swirling around it. "Beautiful," Zephyr 9 said, and meant it. Most inhabited worlds looked brown or gray from space. This one seemed to glow. "We call it the blue planet," Dr. Carter said proudly. "About 70% of the surface is covered with water." The next images showed landscapes that took Zephyr 9's breath away. Tall trees that reached toward the sky, mountains that touched the clouds, oceans that stretched beyond the horizon, fields of green plants waving in the wind. "It looks very peaceful," Zephyr 9 observed. The humans looked at each other and laughed. Not mean laughter, but the kind that came from sharing a private joke. "Peaceful might not be the right word," Morrison said with a grin. "But it's home." Dr. Carter continued showing pictures. Strange creatures filled the images. Some had 4 legs and long tails. Others had wings and beaks. Many were covered in fur or feathers. A few looked dangerous with sharp teeth and claws. "These are some of the animals we share our planet with," she explained. "Earth has millions of different species." Zephyr 9 studied the images carefully. Most worlds he knew had only a few hundred species, maybe 1,000 if they were very old. "Millions?" he asked. "At least," Thompson said. "Maybe more. We're still discovering new ones all the time." "Do you hunt these creatures for food?" Zephyr 9 asked. On most worlds, large animals were raised in controlled environments for safety. "Some of them," Philip said. "But mostly we just try to stay out of their way. They were here first." The concept seemed strange to Zephyr 9. On his homeworld, dangerous animals had been removed long ago. Only safe, useful creatures remained. "Are they not dangerous?" "Oh, many of them are very dangerous," Dr. Davis said casually. "Bears can weigh over 300 kilograms and run faster than most humans. Big cats can leap incredible distances and have claws like knives. Some snakes have poison that can kill you in minutes." Zephyr 9 felt his breathing speed up. "And you live among these creatures?" "Well, we try to avoid the really dangerous ones," Rodriguez said. "But sometimes you run into them. Last summer I was camping with my family and a bear came into our campsite looking for food." "What did you do?" Zephyr 9 asked, imagining the terror of facing such a beast. "Made a lot of noise and threw some pots and pans at it," she said with a shrug. "It got the message and left." Bears don't usually want to fight humans. They just want easy food. The casual way she described the encounter made Zephyr 9's skin crawl. On his world, meeting such a creature would require immediate evacuation and a military response. Dr. Carter switched to showing images of human cities. Tall buildings reached into the sky, connected by bridges and walkways. Millions of humans moved through streets and parks. Flying vehicles moved between the towers. How many humans live on Earth? Zephyr 9 asked. About 8 billion, Wilson said. Zephyr 9's translator made a small error sound. 8 billion? That cannot be correct. No, that's right, Morrison confirmed. Earth is a big planet, and we've learned to live together pretty well. The number staggered Zephyr 9. His entire species numbered only 2 billion across 12 worlds. The idea of 8 billion individuals on one planet seemed impossible. How did they manage resources? How did they prevent wars? How did they keep from destroying their environment? You all live peacefully together? He asked. The humans exchanged glances again. Mostly, Philip said carefully. We have our disagreements sometimes, but we've learned that working together gets better results than fighting. We've had some practice with it, Davis added quietly. As the day continued, Zephyr 9 found himself both fascinated and confused by these humans. They seemed friendly and open, eager to share their culture and learn about others. They laughed easily and showed genuine interest in his own people, but something felt different about them. They moved with a confidence that most species only showed in their own territory. They spoke of dangerous situations like minor inconveniences. Their bodies were built stronger than seemed necessary for a civilized species. When the evening meal arrived, the humans insisted he join them. The food was surprisingly good, with flavors more complex than the simple nutrition pastes common on most worlds. They told stories of their lives, their families, their hopes for the future. Zephyr 9 began to relax. Perhaps his initial concerns were wrong. These seemed like a peaceful, curious species that would fit well into galactic civilization. They were different, certainly, but difference was not necessarily dangerous. As the meal ended and the humans prepared for their sleep cycle, Morrison walked Zephyr 9 to his quarters. I hope today was helpful, the commander said. Tomorrow we can show you more about human culture, maybe some of our technology and science. Thank you, Zephyr 9 replied. Your people seem very interesting. Morrison smiled that human smile again. We try to be. Sleep well, observer. Tomorrow should be even more educational. As the door closed, Zephyr 9 settled onto the sleeping platform they had prepared for him. The humans had been thoughtful about his needs, adjusting the temperature and lighting to match his preferences. Still, something nagged at him as he drifted toward sleep. Something about the way the humans talked about their world, their lives, their history, like there were stories beneath the stories they had shared. Tomorrow, he decided, he would ask more questions. The next morning, Zephyr 9 joined the humans for their morning meal. They called it breakfast, and it involved hot drinks that contained a chemical called caffeine. The humans seemed to need this chemical to become fully awake. Did you sleep well? Dr. Carter asked as she sipped her coffee. Yes, thank you, Zephyr 9 replied. Your ship is very quiet. Space travel can be boring, Thompson said. Not like camping back home. Nothing trying to eat you out here. The comment seemed like a joke, but something in Thompson's tone made Zephyr 9 wonder. What do you mean by that? Well, on Earth you have to be careful where you sleep, Thompson explained. Depending on where you are, you might have wolves, bears, big cats, snakes, spiders, or any number of things that consider humans a possible meal. Dr. Davis nodded. I remember my first camping trip as a child. My father spent an hour explaining how to hang our food so bears couldn't get it, how to check for snakes before sitting down, and what to do if we encountered a mountain lion. Mountain lion? Zephyr 9 asked. Big cat, about 80 kilograms, can leap 4 meters straight up, Carter explained. Beautiful animals, but they hunt alone and they're perfectly designed killers. The casual way she described such a creature sent chills through Zephyr 9's body. And children go camping in areas with these creatures? Sure, Wilson said. You just have to be smart about it. Make noise so you don't surprise anything. Keep your food secure. Know what to do if you meet something dangerous. What do you do if you meet something dangerous? Zephyr 9 had to ask. Depends on what it is, Philip said thoughtfully. With bears, you try to look big and make noise. With mountain lions, you maintain eye contact and back away slowly. With snakes, you give them space and let them leave. And if they attack anyway? The humans looked at each other. Then you fight, Morrison said simply. Humans are pretty good at fighting when we have to. Rodriguez pulled out her personal communication device and showed Zephyr 9 images from her camping trip. The pictures showed her family around a fire in a forest clearing. Mountains rose in the background under a sky full of stars. This is from last month, she said. My daughter Amy loves camping. She's only 8 years old, but she can already identify animal tracks and knows which plants are safe to eat. Zephyr 9 stared at the image of the small human child. On his world, children that age lived in protected environments with multiple safety systems. The idea of taking them into wilderness areas seemed impossible. Is it not dangerous for children? Life is dangerous, Davis said gently. We try to minimize unnecessary risks, but we also believe children need to learn about the real world. Amy has been camping since she was 2 years old. She's probably safer in the wilderness than most adults from other species would be. The conversation moved to other topics, but Zephyr 9 found himself thinking about what he had heard. These humans lived their entire lives surrounded by creatures that could kill them, yet they seemed to consider this normal. Later that morning, Dr. Carter offered to show him more about Earth. They went to her laboratory, where she had detailed files about human biology and their home planet. I study how life develops on different worlds, she explained. Earth is unusual in several ways. She showed him a map of Earth with different colored regions. These colors represent different climate zones. As you can see, Earth has tremendous variety. Ice caps at the poles, deserts near the equator, tropical forests, grasslands, mountains, and more. How do humans survive in all these different environments? We adapt, she said. Humans can live almost anywhere on Earth. We've learned to make clothes for cold weather, find water in deserts, build homes that survive storms and earthquakes. Earthquakes? Carter nodded. The ground shakes sometimes. Earth's surface is made of pieces that move around. When they bump into each other, the ground can shake hard enough to knock down buildings. Zephyr 9 felt sick. How often does this happen? Somewhere on Earth, probably every day. Most are small. Big ones that damage cities happen maybe once or twice a year. And humans continue to live in these areas? Where else would we go? Carter asked, seeming genuinely puzzled by the question. Earthquakes can happen almost anywhere on Earth. You just build strong buildings and hope for the best. She showed him more images. Massive storms with winds that could destroy entire cities. Waves of water called tsunamis that could wash away coastal areas. Volcanic eruptions that covered the sky with ash and made the air dangerous to breathe. These are all natural events on your world? Part of life, she confirmed. Earth is what we call a dynamic planet. Always changing, always moving. It keeps things interesting. Thompson joined them in the laboratory. What are you showing our guest? Just some basic information about Earth, Carter replied. Tell him about the time you went swimming with sharks, Thompson suggested with a grin. Zephyr 9's translator had to work hard with that sentence. Swimming with sharks? Carter laughed. It was a research project. Sharks are large fish with very sharp teeth. Most people are afraid of them, but they're usually not interested in humans. I was studying their behavior patterns. Usually not interested? Well, sometimes they bite people by mistake. They think we might be seals or other prey animals, but actual shark attacks are very rare. You're more likely to be struck by lightning. Lightning. Thompson explained about electrical storms while Carter showed images of jagged bolts of electricity splitting the sky. The idea that humans regularly went outside during such events seemed insane to Zephyr 9. Do humans not have safe shelters to protect them from these dangers? Of course we do, Carter said. But we can't spend our whole lives hiding. We have work to do, places to go, people to see. You learn to be careful and you accept that some risk is part of living. During the afternoon, Zephyr 9 met with Dr. Davis to learn about human medicine. What he learned there disturbed him even more than the stories about Earth's environment. Human bodies are remarkably resilient, Davis explained. We can survive injuries that would kill most species. Broken bones heal themselves if you set them properly. Cuts close up on their own. We can lose significant amounts of blood and still function. He showed Zephyr 9 medical scans of human bodies. See these bone structures? Much denser than most species. These muscle attachments, designed for both endurance and sudden bursts of strength. The cardiovascular system has multiple backup pathways. Why are humans built so robustly? Earth is a challenging place to live, Davis said. Over millions of years, only the strongest and most adaptable humans survived to have children. We're basically the descendants of survivors. What kinds of challenges? Davis showed him historical records. Humans had survived ice ages that lasted thousands of years. They had lived through periods when massive volcanoes covered the sky with ash for decades. They had endured plagues that killed huge portions of their population. And through all of this, humans not only survived, but continued to develop technology and culture. Humans are good at working together when things get tough, Davis explained. We share resources, protect each other, find solutions to problems. Some of our greatest advances came during our most difficult periods. That evening, the humans invited Zephyr 9 to join them for what they called recreational activities. Wilson showed him human music, which involved organized sounds that somehow conveyed emotions. Phillips demonstrated a game called chess that required complex strategic thinking. Morrison taught him about human sports, which seemed to involve humans deliberately putting themselves in difficult or dangerous situations for entertainment. They showed him videos of humans racing vehicles at tremendous speeds, jumping from great heights with only fabric wings to slow their fall, and fighting each other in organized combat. Why do humans choose to do dangerous things for fun? Zephyr 9 asked. Life's more interesting when there's some risk involved, Morrison said. Plus, pushing yourself to do difficult things makes you stronger and more capable. Do humans not value safety? We value safety, Rodriguez said. But we also value growth, adventure, and testing our limits. A completely safe life would be a boring life. As the day ended, Zephyr 9 found himself more confused than ever. These humans seemed friendly and intelligent, but they lived in ways that defied every principle of civilized safety he had ever learned. They voluntarily exposed themselves to dangers that most species would consider unacceptable. They found entertainment in activities that could cause injury or death. They raised their children in environments filled with natural hazards, yet they also showed remarkable care for each other. They shared resources freely, worked together to solve problems, and seemed genuinely concerned about the welfare of other species they had never met. Back in his quarters, Zephyr 9 began writing his preliminary report, but he found himself struggling to find the right words. How do you describe a species that seems to thrive on danger, while maintaining deep compassion for others? Tomorrow, he decided, he would ask more direct questions about human nature. He needed to understand what had shaped these remarkable and disturbing creatures. Outside his window, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that a small alien observer was beginning to glimpse the true nature of the species that called itself humanity. Zephyr 9 woke to the sound of alarms. The lights in his quarters had changed from soft blue to harsh red, and a mechanical voice was repeating something in human language. His translator struggled with the rapid speech, but he caught the words emergency and all hands. He quickly dressed and stepped into the corridor. Humans were moving with purpose through the ship, no longer casual and relaxed as they had been the day before. Their faces were serious, focused. Morrison appeared at his side almost immediately. What is happening? Zephyr 9 asked. Emergency distress signal, Morrison explained as they walked quickly toward the bridge. Research station in the Centauri system is under attack. 300 civilians trapped. They entered the bridge, where the crew was working at their stations with intense concentration. The large screen at the front showed a star map with a red dot blinking urgently. Report, Morrison called out. Kythera raiders, Wilson said from her communication station. They hit the research station 40 minutes ago. Station shields are failing. They're requesting immediate assistance. Zephyr 9 knew about the Kythera. They were a warrior species that attacked peaceful settlements for resources and prisoners. Their ships were heavily armed, and their crews were experienced fighters. Captain Phillips stood at the center of the bridge studying the tactical display. How many Kythera ships? Long-range sensors show at least 6 vessels, Rodriguez reported. All military class. Thompson looked up from his engineering station. Nearest Galactic Council fleet is 3 days away at maximum warp. Phillips nodded grimly. The civilians won't last 3 days. Zephyr 9 felt a chill of understanding. You cannot be considering responding to this call. Your ship is not a warship. You are scientists and diplomats. Morrison turned to look at him. The human's expression was calm, but something had changed in his eyes. They looked harder now, more focused. Those are innocent people in danger. Discussion over. But this is impossible, Zephyr 9 protested. 6 Kythera warships against 1 human science vessel? It would be suicide. Philip spoke without looking away from the tactical display. Rodriguez, set course for the Centauri system. Maximum speed. Thompson, start converting our scientific equipment for combat use. Carter, I need you to analyze Kythera ship designs for weaknesses. Davis, prepare for casualties. The crew responded immediately, moving to their tasks without hesitation or argument. No one questioned the captain's decision. No one suggested they wait for proper military support. Wilson, send a message to the research station, Phillips continued. Tell them help is on the way. Zephyr 9 watched in growing alarm as the humans transformed before his eyes. The friendly scientists and diplomats he had spent 2 days with were disappearing, replaced by something else. Something that moved with deadly efficiency. Dr. Carter was pulling up technical specifications for Kythera vessels, marking potential weak points in their design. Thompson was rerouting power systems throughout the ship, somehow turning their sensors into weapons and their communication arrays into defensive shields. This is madness, Zephyr 9 said to Morrison. Your ship cannot fight 6 warships. You will all die. Morrison looked at him again, and Zephyr 9 saw something in the human's face that made his blood freeze. Not anger, not fear, but a cold calculation that reminded him of a predator studying its prey. Maybe, Morrison said quietly. But those civilians will definitely die if we don't try, and that's not acceptable. Not acceptable to whom? To us. To humanity. We don't abandon people who need help. Rodriguez called out from her station. Entering the Centauri system now. I'm reading multiple explosions near the research station. The main screen switched to show the battle. The research station was a small cluster of buildings floating in space, surrounded by 6 dark ships that were firing energy weapons at its weakening shields. Small escape pods were launching from the station, but the Kythera ships were destroying them as they appeared. They're killing the civilians, Wilson said, her voice tight with anger. Philip studied the tactical display for exactly 3 seconds. Then he began giving orders in a calm, clear voice that carried to every station on the bridge. Rodriguez, take us in fast and low. Use the station's debris field for cover. Thompson, I need maximum power to forward shields and weapons. Carter, transmit those Kythera weak points to all stations. Davis, prep the medical bay for incoming wounded. What about me? Morrison asked. You're leading the boarding party, Philip said. We're going to take their command ship. Zephyr 9 felt his breathing stop. Boarding party? You mean to board a Kythera warship during combat? Only way to stop them quickly enough to save the civilians, Morrison explained as he checked a weapon that had appeared from somewhere. Kythera ships have heavy armor but weak internal security. Get aboard and you can take control of their systems. This is insane, Zephyr 9 whispered. This is human, Carter said without looking up from her analysis. We don't do the smart thing. We do the right thing. The Independents shook as they entered combat range. Energy beams flashed past the viewports as Rodriguez piloted them through the battle zone with impossible skill. She was using pieces of destroyed ships and station debris as cover, threading the needle between enemy fire with maneuvers that should have torn their ship apart. Kythera command ship is marking us as a target, Wilson reported. Good, Philip said. Let them focus on us instead of the civilians. Ready the boarding shuttle. Thompson called out from engineering. Converted sensor array is ready to fire. It's not pretty, but it should punch through their shields. Do it. The makeshift weapon fired, sending a beam of energy that struck the nearest Kythera ship. The alien vessel's shields flared and collapsed, leaving its hull exposed. Direct hit, Carter confirmed. Their weapons are offline. Morrison was already moving toward the shuttle bay, checking equipment as he walked. Ben, you're my pilot. Kate, you're on communications and electronic warfare. Paul, medical support. Lieutenant Ben Clark appeared from somewhere, wearing what looked like combat armor. Wilson and Davis were also gearing up with equipment that definitely had not been part of their original mission supplies. Where did all this military equipment come from? Zephyr 9 asked. Human ships carry emergency supplies, Morrison explained. You never know what you might run into out here. The shuttle launched while the Independence continued its attack on the Kythera fleet. Zephyr 9 found himself in the shuttle, though he could not remember deciding to come along. The humans had simply assumed he would join them. Clark piloted the small craft through weapons fire that should have destroyed them instantly. He flew like the shuttle was part of his own body, spinning and diving through space in patterns that made Zephyr 9's stomach lurch. Approaching the command ship, Clark announced, "They're trying to target us." "Let them try," Wilson said as her fingers danced over a control panel. "I'm jamming their targeting systems and feeding false data to their computers." She was doing things to the Kythera ship's electronics that should have been impossible. Human technology was less advanced than Kythera systems, but somehow Wilson was making it work anyway. The shuttle latched onto the Kythera command ship's hull. Davis attached some kind of device to their airlock that cut through the alien ship's armor like it was made of soft plastic. "Boarding in 10 seconds, Morrison announced. He looked at Zephyr 9. "Stay behind us and do exactly what we tell you. This is going to get ugly." The airlock opened and the humans flowed into the Kythera ship like water finding the lowest path. They moved through the corridors with a coordination that spoke of long practice, even though Zephyr 9 knew these were scientists, not soldiers. The first Kythera warrior they encountered was 2 meters tall and built like a living weapon. It charged at Morrison with a roar that shook the corridor walls. Morrison shot it twice, moved aside as it fell, and continued walking as if nothing had happened. His movements were economical, precise, wasting no energy on unnecessary actions. "How far to their bridge?" he asked Wilson. "2 levels up, then. Forward?" She replied while simultaneously doing something to a wall panel that made lights flicker throughout the ship. They encountered more Kythera warriors as they moved through the ship. Each time the humans dealt with them quickly and efficiently, then continued toward their objective. They worked together like parts of a single organism, anticipating each other's movements and covering each other's actions. Dr. Davis treated wounded humans and enemy fighters with equal skill, patching injuries while the battle continued around him. Clark watched their rear, making sure no enemies flanked them. Wilson hacked alien computer systems while walking and shooting. And Morrison led them forward with the relentless determination of a force of nature. When they reached the Kythera bridge, the battle was over in less than 30 seconds. The alien commander tried to surrender, but Morrison was already at the control systems, somehow making sense of foreign technology. "Wilson, can you get their communications?" "Already done. I'm ordering the other ships to withdraw. Will they obey?" "They will when they see what I'm doing to their engines." Through the viewports, Zephyr 9 could see the other Kythera ships beginning to retreat. The human science vessel had somehow defeated 6 warships using improvised weapons and a boarding party of researchers. The rescue operation was unlike anything Zephyr 9 had ever witnessed. The humans moved through the damaged research station with the same deadly efficiency they had shown in combat, but now that efficiency was focused on saving lives rather than taking them. Dr. Davis set up a medical station in the Independence's cargo bay, treating wounded civilians from a dozen different species. His hands moved with steady precision as he worked on injuries ranging from minor cuts to severe burns from the station's damaged systems. "How many more?" he asked Wilson as she coordinated the rescue shuttles. 43 still trapped in the lower sections, she replied while simultaneously managing communication with 6 different rescue teams. "The structural damage is worse than we thought." Thompson was leading a team through the station's twisted corridors, using improvised tools to cut through collapsed walls and twisted metal. He moved through the wreckage like he had been born for this work, finding paths where others saw only obstacles. "Got a live one here?" His voice crackled over the communication system. "Looks like a vegan scientist, unconscious but breathing. Need medical support." Carter was analyzing the station's failing life support systems, somehow keeping them running long enough for the evacuation to continue. She had connected human equipment to alien technology using methods that should not have worked but did. Rodriguez was piloting rescue shuttles through debris fields that would have challenged experienced military pilots. She made runs that other species would have considered impossible, threading between floating wreckage to reach trapped civilians. And Morrison was everywhere at once, coordinating the entire operation while personally leading the most dangerous rescue missions. Zephyr 9 watched him crawl through a collapsed corridor to reach a group of trapped children. talking calmly to them while cutting through the debris that held them. "It's okay," Morrison said to a small Alterian child who was crying for her parents. "We're going to get you out of here. What's your name?" "Sayla," the child whispered. "That's a beautiful name, Sayla. My name is Jake. I'm going to carry you to safety, okay? Your parents are waiting for you on our ship." The child nodded and wrapped her small arms around Morrison's neck. As he carried her through the wreckage, Morrison continued talking to her in a gentle voice, pointing out interesting things in the station's design to distract her from her fear. Zephyr 9 followed them, trying to understand what he was seeing. This was the same human who had coldly shot Kythera warriors less than an hour ago, the same human who had led a boarding party against impossible odds. Now he was comforting a frightened child with infinite patience. When they reached the shuttle, Morrison carefully handed Sayla to her parents, who were waiting with tears streaming down their faces. The reunion was emotional, full of gratitude and relief. "Thank you," Sayla's father said to Morrison. "You saved our daughter's life." Morrison just nodded and turned to head back into the station. There were more people to rescue, but Zephyr 9 had seen something in the human's face during that exchange. For just a moment, Morrison's expression had softened completely. The warrior had disappeared, replaced by someone who genuinely cared about the welfare of complete strangers. The rescue operation continued for 6 hours. The humans worked without rest, moving through the dangerous station again and again to bring out survivors. They treated every rescued civilian with care and respect, regardless of species or origin. Clark made 17 trips through wreckage fields that should have destroyed his shuttle. Wilson coordinated communications in 7 different languages simultaneously. Carter kept failing systems running through sheer determination and improvised engineering. Davis worked on injured civilians until his hands shook with exhaustion, then continued working anyway. Thompson cut through obstacles that heavy machinery should have been needed for, using portable tools and human strength. When the last civilian was finally brought aboard the Independence, the count stood at 294 lives saved. 6 people had died in the initial attack before the humans arrived. 3 members of the human crew had been injured during the rescue operation. Zephyr 9 watched as Morrison stood before his crew in the cargo bay, looking at the faces of the rescued civilians. Families were reunited, medical treatment was being provided, and temporary quarters were being arranged. "Good work, everyone," Morrison said quietly. "We did what we came to do, that was all. No speeches about heroism. No celebration of their victory over the Kythera raiders. No acknowledgement of the impossible odds they had overcome. Just satisfaction that they had helped people who needed help." Later, as the Independence traveled toward the nearest Galactic Council station to deliver the rescued civilians, Zephyr 9 found himself in the ship's observation lounge. The stars moved slowly past the windows as he tried to process what he had witnessed. Captain Phillips joined him, carrying 2 cups of the hot human beverage called coffee. He offered one to Zephyr 9, who accepted it gratefully. "Rough day," Phillips said as he settled into a chair. "I do not understand your people," Zephyr 9 admitted. "You fight like warriors, but you are not a military crew. You risk your lives for strangers, but you show no emotion about it. You defeat superior forces through methods that should not work." Phillips sipped his coffee thoughtfully. "What would you like to understand?" "Everything. How do humans become capable of such violence and such compassion at the same time? How do you make impossible decisions seem routine? How do you function as a species when your entire world is trying to kill you?" Philip smiled, but it was a sad expression. "You're asking the wrong question, Zephyr 9. You want to know how we became this way. But the better question is why we stayed this way. I do not understand the difference. Earth made us into survivors," Phillips explained. "Every generation of humans has faced challenges that would break most species. Ice ages, plagues, natural disasters, predators, resource shortages. The weak died. The strong adapted. The smart learned to work together." He gestured toward the window where stars continued their ancient dance. "But surviving doesn't automatically make you good. It just makes you capable. Earth created a species that could endure anything, fight anything, overcome any obstacle. Then why are you not conquerors? Why do you help other species instead of dominating them?" Phillips was quiet for a long moment. "Because along the way we learned something important. The same qualities that make us good at surviving also make us good at protecting others. Strength without compassion just makes you a better predator. Intelligence without empathy just makes you a more efficient killer. But today you were both. You killed Kythera warriors and saved civilian children. Yes, Phillips agreed. Because sometimes the only way to protect the innocent is to be more dangerous than the things that threaten them. Morrison appeared in the doorway of the observation lounge. Captain, we're receiving a message from the Galactic Council. They want a full report on our encounter with the Kythera. Tell them we'll file a standard report when we reach the station, Phillips replied. Morrison nodded and left. Phillips turned back to Zephyr 9. You know what the hardest part of being human is? He asked. No. Knowing that we're capable of terrible things but choosing to do good things instead. Every day, every human makes that choice. We could use our abilities to take whatever we want, to dominate other species, to conquer and destroy. Why do you not? Because we remember what it's like to be the victims. Every human carries the genetic memory of ancestors who were prey animals, who faced extinction, who survived only because they helped each other. We know what it's like to be helpless, so we protect the helpless. Phillips finished his coffee and stood up. Your report will probably recommend that humans be admitted to the Galactic Council with restrictions. Maybe limits on our military capabilities, observers to monitor our behavior, requirements for approval before we can act in crisis situations. Zephyr 9 nodded. That was exactly what he had been planning to recommend. I understand why you would think that way, Phillips continued. We are dangerous. We are capable of violence that most species consider unthinkable. But you should ask yourself this question. When the next crisis comes, when innocent people are in danger and the proper authorities are too far away to help, do you want humans to be free to act, or do you want them held back by bureaucracy? The captain left Zephyr 9 alone with his thoughts. Outside the windows, the stars continued their silent journey through space, unaware that a small alien observer was struggling to understand the nature of a species that embodied both salvation and destruction in equal measure. Tomorrow, they would reach the Galactic Council station. Tomorrow, Zephyr 9 would have to decide what to write in his report about humanity. Tonight, he sat in the darkness and wondered if the galaxy was ready for a species that fought like demons to protect the innocent, and whether that protection was worth the risk of having such dangerous guardians. The Galactic Council station appeared on the view screen like a small metal city floating in space. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species moved in carefully controlled patterns around the massive structure. After 3 days of travel, they had finally reached civilization. Zephyr 9 stood on the bridge of the Independence watching the final approach. The rescued civilians were preparing to disembark, reunite with their families, and return to their normal lives. For them, the terror was over. For Zephyr 9, the real challenge was just beginning. Docking in 10 minutes, Rodriguez announced. Commander Morrison appeared beside Zephyr 9. Nervous about your report? Yes, Zephyr 9 admitted. What I write will determine how the galaxy views your species for generations to come. No pressure then, Morrison said with that human expression they called a smile. Captain Phillips joined them as the Independence settled into its docking berth. Through the windows they could see Galactic Council officials waiting to receive the rescued civilians. Medical teams, administrative personnel, and journalists were all gathered to document the successful rescue mission. They're calling it the Centauri Miracle, Phillips said. One human science ship defeating 6 Kythera raiders and saving nearly 300 lives. The news services can't get enough of the story. Is that good or bad for humanity? Zephyr 9 asked. Depends on how it's told, Morrison replied. If they focus on the rescue, we're heroes. If they focus on our combat capabilities, we're a threat. Dr. Carter approached with a data pad. The preliminary casualty reports are complete. All 294 rescued civilians are expected to make full recoveries. The Kythera prisoners are also recovering from their injuries. Prisoners. Zephyr 9 had not thought about what happened to the enemy survivors. We captured 17 Kythera warriors during the boarding action, Morrison explained. They're being held in our detention facilities until the council decides what to do with them. Are they being treated well? Dr. Davis overheard the question as he passed by. Same medical care as everyone else. Enemy or not, injured people need treatment. Zephyr 9 followed the medical officer to the detention area. What he found there surprised him. The Kythera prisoners were housed in clean, well-lit quarters with proper food and medical attention. Dr. Davis was personally checking on their recovery, treating their injuries with the same care he had shown the rescued civilians. One of the Kythera warriors, A large individual with scars covering his arms looked up as they entered. He spoke in his own language, which Zephyr 9's translator converted. Why do the humans heal their enemies? Davis looked at the warrior calmly. Because you're hurt and I'm a doctor. It's not complicated. We came to kill you. We destroyed your research station. We murdered innocents. Yes, you did, Davis agreed. And we stopped you. But that doesn't mean we let you die of your injuries. We're not like you. The Kithara warrior stared at Davis for a long moment. I do not understand your species. That's okay, Davis said as he checked the warrior's bandages. Most of the time, we don't understand ourselves either. As they left the detention area, Davis explained his philosophy to Zephyr 9. Treating enemies with respect doesn't make you weak. It makes you better than them. The moment you start behaving like your enemies, you become your enemies. The disembarkation process took several hours. Zephyr 9 watched as the rescued civilians said goodbye to their human rescuers. There were tears, embraces, and expressions of gratitude in dozens of languages. Little Scylla, the Alterian child Morrison had rescued, gave the commander a drawing she had made during the journey. It showed stick figures that were supposed to be humans, fighting monsters to protect smaller. Figures that represented the rescued civilians. Thank you for saving us, she said in careful standard Galactic. Morrison knelt down to her level. Thank you for being brave, Scylla. Take care of your parents. The child hugged him once more, then ran to join her family as they left the ship. When the last civilian had disembarked, the human crew gathered in their main conference room. They were tired, having worked almost continuously for the past 3 days, but they seemed satisfied with their efforts. So what happens now? Wilson asked. Now we wait, Phillips replied. The council will review our actions, interview the survivors, and decide whether humanity is ready for full membership in galactic civilization. And if they decide we're too dangerous? Thompson asked. Then we keep doing what we've always done, Morrison said. Help people who need help, fight when we have to, and try to make the galaxy a better place. Zephyr 9 realized this was his opportunity to ask the questions that had been troubling him since the rescue mission. May I ask you something? All of you? The humans nodded. You could have ignored the distress call. You could have waited for proper military support. You could have followed safe, reasonable procedures. Why did you choose to risk your lives for people you had never met? The humans looked at each other as if the question puzzled them. Because they needed help, Carter said finally. But many species need help. The galaxy is full of suffering and injustice. Do humans plan to fix every problem? We'll try, Phillips said simply. Even if it costs human lives? Some things are worth dying for, Morrison said. Protecting innocent people is one of them. But why? What do you gain from this? The humans were quiet for a moment. Then Davis spoke up. When I was young, my family lived in a city that was hit by a terrible earthquake. Our building collapsed and we were trapped in the rubble for 2 days. We thought we were going to die. He paused, looking out the window at the space station. But then rescue workers came. They dug through tons of concrete and metal to reach us. They risked their own lives to save strangers. They didn't ask what we could pay them, or what country we were from, or what we believed. They just saw people who needed help. I became a doctor because of those rescue workers, Davis continued. Not because I wanted to be a hero, but because I learned that sometimes the most important thing you can do is help someone you've never met. And when you help someone, Carter added, you make the universe a little bit better. Do that enough times and maybe the universe becomes a place worth living in. Zephyr 9 thought about this as he prepared to leave the Independence. The humans gave him copies of their logs, their technical specifications, and detailed reports of their actions during the rescue mission. Everything he would need to write his assessment of their species. As he gathered his belongings, Morrison appeared at his quarters. Before you go, the commander said, I want to show you something. Morrison led him to a small room Zephyr 9 had never seen before. The walls were covered with pictures, letters, and small objects. Morrison explained that it was a memorial room, dedicated to humans who had died helping others. This is Dr. Robert Kim, Morrison said, pointing to one picture. He died treating plague victims on Rigel 7. He could have evacuated, but he stayed to help the sick. This is Engineer Sandra Lopez. She died fixing the life support systems on a damaged colony ship. She got everyone else to safety first. Captain Alex Turner. He died defending a refugee convoy from pirates. His last message was asking about the safety of the civilians. The room was filled with hundreds of such stories. Humans who had chosen to risk everything for people they barely knew, species they had just met, causes that offered them no personal benefit. Every human knows stories like these, Morrison explained. We teach them to our children. We remember them when we face difficult choices. They remind us what it means to be human. Is this why you saved the research station? To honor these people? Partly, Morrison said. But mostly we did it because it was the right thing to do. Because someone had to do it. Because we could. As Zephyr 9 prepared to leave the human ship, Captain Phillips met him at the airlock. Whatever you write in your report, Phillips said, I want you to remember something. We know we're dangerous. We know we're capable of terrible things. That's exactly why the galaxy needs us to be good. What do you mean? There are species out there like the Kithera who use their strength to hurt others. There are pirates who prey on the weak, tyrants who oppress their people, and conquerors who destroy anything different from themselves. Phillips gestured toward the memorial room. Humans could be any of those things. We have the strength, the intelligence, and the ruthlessness, but we choose to be protectors instead of predators. We choose to build instead of destroy. We choose to help instead of harm. And if we ever forget that choice, Morrison added, if we ever become the monsters we're capable of being, then the galaxy will be in real trouble. That's why we police ourselves so carefully. That's why we remember our history and honor our heroes. Zephyr 9 understood. The humans were not just powerful. They were powerful beings who had chosen to use that power for good. That choice made them both more trustworthy and more terrifying than any other species he had encountered. As he walked through the corridors of the space station toward his transport home, Zephyr 9 carried with him the weight of decision. His report would help determine humanity's place in galactic civilization. He could recommend restrictions, limitations, careful monitoring of human activities. That would be the safe choice. The cautious path that most council members would probably prefer.